Welcome. This is the Senior Life Academy located on the campus of University Park United Methodist Church here in Dallas, Texas. I'm Dee Dee Cassad, and I have with me for our panel discussion today Miriam Mathis, Stephen Fleming, Bill Matthews, and Diana Wilson. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
We have discussed many things through the weeks, and today we're going to branch out a little bit beyond our church and talk about not only maybe political, but some social involvement that we think is appropriate for church people to become involved in. An advocacy program for disadvantaged people or overlooked groups that we've heard about recently. And especially, Bill, you have been to a conference that should enlighten us. Can you tell us about it?
Well, the most recent conference was the National Leadership Summit, it was called, of the United Nations Association of the United States of America, which is a mouthful. But I represented the Dallas chapter of United Nations UNA-USA, just to shorten that. And this is an annual event held in Washington, D.C., where the United Nations Foundation is located. And I really go to that because it has become, since I retired a few hundred years ago, it seemed like, I've found a new area of ministry in the United Nations, because they're the ones who are doing souls in the sand, I call it, rather than boots on the ground where you have sort of a militaristic standpoint. Souls in the sand is working with people in empathetic ways. And I've rephrased the golden rule to say, do with others what they would have you do with them, rather than doing to them or unto them. That's a fancy way of saying it. But that little twist in the whole thing makes a difference to me, because I think that's what happens on the ground or in the sand. Since so many of the jobs that are done by United Nations are in sandy soil, in the islands and other places where I've been privileged to go also, it just feels good to be involved in those places where people are in need of some help from outside. And it just makes me feel good to be there, even though that's at a very high level of administrative. And what we really do, though, is through United Nations Association, we advocate with the political framework of our country, but of all of the 193 other nations that are involved in United Nations, to advocate with them for the human rights of the people that are the ones that are the object of it all. Now that's a really convoluted description.
That's a great start. And Miriam, you have been involved in some of these things. You heard the other day about a camp of young people. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, we had a speaker at our church, as you know, who had gone to one of the internment camps where some young refugees are being held near El Paso, the Tornillo camp. And the whole purpose of that mission activity was to go and pray with those young people. They are unaccompanied minors. Their parents sent them by themselves, so they were not separated from their parents at the border, but they came on their own. So there's several hundred of them, mostly young men, teenagers and on up, and a few.
But they're not illegal. I mean, they're not illegal immigrants, are they?
I don't know.
Their status hadn't been
Their
determined.
status hasn't been
Okay.
determined.
They're seeking asylum.
They're
Seeking
They're
asylum.
seeking asylum, and they're mostly from Central America, as I understand it.
In Guatemala.
And Guatemala
And
and
Honduras,
San Salvador.
those two places primarily.
Yes. So this particular Methodist church was asked by a local official here in Dallas to be part of a group who would go down And to my knowledge, they stayed overnight and went to this camp and were allowed to speak to and pray with those kids.
But did they pray in their language?
The ones who spoke Spanish, I think, were able to. I don't know how many of those spoke Spanish, but there was a plea for anyone who spoke Spanish to offer their help in that regard. And I know that a lot of retired people are able and willing to travel short distances like that. I mean, it's a long way from here, but it's not international travel, really. And I think it's a good outlet for those of us who are concerned about the immigration issues and about kids on their own in a strange country.
Well, what do you see as, any of you, how do you see us, and not only we can minister by, praying for them, but what's the solution for this? In other words, if we as a church took that on as a cause, I mean, do we adopt these kids? How do we really minister to them?
I think I heard in the presentation yesterday that a lot of these kids have connections here in the States, that there is either family here or friends.
So it's just a matter of finding who they are and where they are and transferring them to?
Well, they've got to go through some court procedure to see whether they are going to allow them to stay.
There is an organization called Raíces, which has been raising money specifically for lawyers who will help not
good.
only adults but kids who are on their own go through all the processes that we require of them before they're released to their either extended families or out on their own.
And that's why working with organizations like the United Methodist Church is so good, because they have the resources, they have the structure, and they have the connections, so that we are doing what you talked about, Bill, working with people instead of going down there like the Lone Ranger and thinking that we have all the answers,
Right.
but really just to be a servant as part of the process.
And that is the point, because it's hard to come up with a real solution to this.
Absolutely.
And is it an ongoing thing? Do they, after we get this group of young people, is there another group that comes, or is this?
Well, there are already 2,000 incarcerated at this point. That's the statistic that's used frequently on television reports. There are over 2,000 who have been incarcerated at various levels and various aspects. So it's not a simple solution.
Well, that's the new population since April, the ones that have been separated from their parents. But this is something that's been ongoing for a while.
For
isn't
years.
it?
Yes, yes.
So, but it doesn't have to be one particular program. I think just as we've kind of titled this part, what catches your passion?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And to me, the amazing thing is that there are so many niches where you might fit in to one of them, just exactly like, for instance, I don't speak Spanish. I've been on mission trips to the south of the border, and I've been useful, but not nearly so much as if I spoke Spanish or could speak it fluently. But there are other ways to find a place to be in service. To me, what's so important is just to keep in mind that we are sent people.
Absolutely.
And the question shouldn't be for us as an organization called a church on some street corner, or as a church, as a body of people, that we really shouldn't be thinking in terms of if I get involved or if I choose to do something. The mission of the United Methodist Church is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. And you can't do that without getting involved in some kind of way.
The word passion, I think, is key to this. I think that all of us at one time or other, our heartstrings are pulled, or we get a message from the Holy Spirit that says, you need to do this.
This is yours to do.
This is yours to do. And we can bring up many things that we do in our church. You're going to Guatemala, for instance, are you not?
Right, we're going on a trip that we do. We try to do it every year.
Same place,
It's the same place.
working with the same people, and doing what they want us
what
to do.
What do you do, Miriam?
We partner with an organization that was founded by somebody from here and who now lives in Guatemala and has a community-based sustainable organization around this volcanic lake called Lake Atitlan. And it's primarily medical programs, health education programs that they're involving. It's sustained by native Guatemalans. So what we do is we supply funds and workers for the week that we go. Other churches go for different time periods. And so typically we help build a house or finish one or start one for people who do not have a house to live in. And then the other part, the medical people go to the clinics that our church actually helped build both those clinics. We go to those clinics and help out with the daily flow of mothers and babies or diabetes patients. So,
We do a lot in this church. Diane, Saturday you were up here fixing breakfast for whom?
Austin Street Shelter. Every quarter, people from our church provide food and fix it. We do it on Saturday morning for the Sunday morning breakfast.
And Austin Street Shelter,
It's a homeless shelter.
It's a homeless shelter.
Downtown
And-
Dallas. Yeah.
And other churches do it on other weeks.
It's
Right.
on rotation.
It's on
It's on
rotation,
rotation.
right. So there's things that we can do here at home. That's where I was getting at.
Yes.
And the North Texas Food Bank and the Shared Food Ministries or Shared Ministries also do the feeding programs in the wider community outside of specific shelters. Those are really important.
Yes, they
And
are.
it's a matter of a few canned goods or other things that are non-perishables that can be shared through that means, plus a lot of money. A lot of monetary gifts are always appreciated because I remember Red Cross even says, send money because we know where to get the supplies at a discount. And so if you go buy something and say, well, we're going to take medicine. I was in a group that went to the Soviet Union back in the 80s. And we took, I remember 10 suitcases full of stuff, medical supplies to a hospital in the town where we were going. And they appreciated it greatly. Well, we walked down the halls of that hospital and saw fantastic x-ray equipment that nobody knew how to run. And it was sitting there idle. It had been the good hearts of somebody had sent that. But it's a matter of something I learned as a missionary in the South Pacific, appropriate technology.
Yeah.
And that's where working with the local people to shape the design of any kind of a program like that. That's why my platinum rule is doing with others what they want you to do with them.
and that's
Not imposing our will or our good-hearted ideas.
Yeah.
But it's really important to focus in on what their need is and how they would have those needs met.
That's why I love so much what we do with the Organization for the Development of Indigenous Maya, the ODIM, because they tell us what they need.
Right.
They make it really clear, we need this, not this. We need this many people for that. And they design and implement and continue the work all year long. And we just pop in and help out, and so do other groups. So
I was recently at Mission U, which is the United Methodist Women's summer training program.
School of Missions used
School
to
of
be
Missions.
called.
Yeah, right.
We gave it a fancy name now.
And I was thinking about that when you were talking about souls in the sand,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the issues that we talked about was how we live in this world affects the planet, and global warming and pollution. And lately, there's been this story about a big deal because Starbucks is not going to have plastic straws.
Mm-hmm.
People are all upset about that, talking about priorities. Anyhow, UMW has a lot of programs that people can get connected with if they want to take action. Our church has a membership to Texas Impact. The UMW at our church bought a congregational membership, and that's a social action arm of
Absolutely.
not just UMW, but it's an interfaith organization based in Austin that works with the legislature and keeps us posted on social issues of the day and how we can, in our own local units, make a difference.
You can even register for their newsletter, the Texas Freedom Network, and get the regular news from the.
Now,
from
that's
the
helpful
Texas
that,
Impact.
that our listeners would like to hear,
Right.
Bill.
Well, the
Explain that to them.
Texas Freedom Network is the newsletter that's a regular publication, comes out at least weekly, and sometimes it seems like it's daily.
They email it as well.
But it's an email newsletter.
And how did they
And
get it?
Just subscribe. Look at tfn.org probably.
That helps,
And
right. Well, there's many things that we do in this church that if we have audience out there who are members, say, of a church that's say 300 members in a town, of 3,000 people, how do we encourage them to get involved in their small world to help maintain and the kingdom where they are? You do some crocheting and knitting, and what form does that take?
Well, we have a group called the Mission Monday group, and each one of us kind of has a pet project outside the church that everybody else contributes to. And one thing we do is we help this local organization, Paper for Water. 2 young girls started, where we help gather and make the components of origami, little
Design.
Christmas ornaments
Christmas ornaments.
that
and
we all buy because they're so wonderful.
They're so beautiful, and they are sold, and the proceeds go to digging wells in countries where there is no potable water. So these 2 young girls have made it possible for there to be over $1 million raised to put wells in countries in Africa. Anyway, that's one of the things that we do, and then we also knit and crochet and sew for other organizations that send out either dresses to Africa or warm things here in the U.S. and Canada, where people just hand them out on the street. So we do what we can because each one of us has a passion for that particular project, but we all kind of help out seasonally.
Well,
We've just recently been a recipient of some of that care by when my wife just went through mastectomy surgery, and when she checked out of the hospital, they gave her a little heart-shaped pillow to be a cushion against the surgery.
Oh.
And it was just so heartwarming.
Yeah, it is. That's what it's for, Bill. That is, and that's what we're trying to convey to our people today. I think is that there are many, many things that we can do, and that's part of our mission. Not only bring people to Christ. That's, to me, is God's job. Our job is to spread the word out.
And for those of you who have found your place in a mission organization or group like that, don't be shy about inviting others, because I find that that's the
Good
most
point.
effective way to grow that sense of caring. My first mission trip I went on, I didn't just boldly walk up and ask to go on it. I was invited to come on it. And if it hadn't been for that invitation, I don't think I would have gone. But that opened my eyes to so much, and I was so grateful for being asked.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all. We appreciate it. We need to wrap this up now. I want to extend to you an invitation to look at your church and your community and see what you might do to further the kingdom of God. We'd like to hear from you. Our email is on the bottom of the screen. And in between time, we would like for God to surround you with His grace.